using amusement parks, mud runs, and escape rooms to inspire your classroom on episode 546.
The 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with Vicki Davis. Every weekday, you'll learn powerful, practical ways to be a more remarkable teacher today.
Do you have a DonorsChoose.org project that needs funding? Today's sponsor is Advancement Courses, and they are donating 10% of their sales until September 27th to DonorsChoose.org projects. And also, if you're needing professional development, you get 20% off their 200 plus online courses using the special code just for 10-Minute Teacher listeners. Stay tuned at the end of the show to learn more. So today we're talking with John Meehan. He's an 11th grade English teacher and instructional coach in Virginia. And he is author of one of the books that I think probably has the best name of an educational book I've heard in a long time. EDrenaline Rush, game-changing student engagement inspired by theme parks, mud runs, and escape rooms. And I am not surprised that my friend Dave Burgess is publishing this book. It's already out. So, John, as we get motivated for Monday, let's kind of tackle each of these three. How can we improve student engagement inspired by theme parks?
I think that the big message of my book, we don't teach content, we teach kids. And so we have to figure out what motivates kids, what gets them excited. I think that the enthusiasm we bring to our classroom is infectious. And if we can really lead with that passion, that energy, they can't help but raise an eyebrow. And if I can get them raising an eyebrow, I'm in. Like, I could do it. And so I try to figure out what motivates today's students by leaning into things that we do in our own time that cost a lot of our time and a lot of our money. Talk about theme parks, talk about mud runs and escape rooms. I spend a lot of time in Walt Disney World. I'm a runner. And so every year we do the Disney Marathon down there. I'm just amazed when we walk into like that theme park that they're so good at like distracting you from the fact that you spent a lot of time and a lot of money just sort of standing around. So like, what are they doing so well? And I think it's the elaborate storytelling that welcomes you into that sort of magic circle of the world of the Magic Kingdom that makes you feel like I can't help but get excited, but I want to see what happens next. A little bit of that mystery, that intrigue and surprise, and those thrills and spills, which makes you feel like totally safe to take risks, to ride those big roller coasters, and to lean in and ask more questions like, hey, Mom, can I get a souvenir? Can I get a picture with this? Can I do another ride? Can I go off? And that's what we want to see in our classrooms, that self-guided inquiry, that discovery, and that excitement for learning.
Can you give me an example of how you've applied this in your English classroom?
Yeah, you bet. So in my first school, I was teaching George Orwell's Barnyard Allegory, the story of this communist takeover of Animal Farm. And I wanted to figure out how to get kids excited about what's pretty heavy, heady stuff. So I decided I'd turn my classroom into a barnyard. But it didn't quite work out, so I had to pivot. And without giving too much away, I decided to do like a communist takeover of a classroom. And that involved a crazy amount of propaganda, some colorful theming, and the help of an administrative team that was willing to be the bad guys, so to speak. So we really all got into the part of it. And I don't want to give it away, but it's so good. And as it turns out, the preview on Amazon and on Dave's website leads you right up to what happens with the dramatic reveal of that. And I didn't set that up at all, but like, it's so cool to like see, you want to lean in and get excited, which is what good teaching does, right?
Yeah.
It gets you leaning in to answer more questions. So
awesome. So I
really
assume this is in the book, right? So if they teach Animal Farm, they can dig into the book and figure out how to have a communist takeover.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, like, and it's designed to be like, this is just but one example. Like there's a million different ways that teachers can use theming and creativity in their classroom. And I think that Walt Disney quote says the reward for correct answers is like, we always get more curious and we want to learn more. So keep opening those new doors. And that's what I have in the classroom.
I love that. So having kind of a theme park inspiration. That's awesome. Okay. So a mud run. First, tell people who don't know what a mud run is, because we do have people all over the world who listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
What is a mud run?
So a mud run is someone tricked you into doing yard work for them on the weekends and you paid them money to do it.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the sarcastic version. What's a real? Yeah.
Yeah. That's it really. I mean, like I'm on a mountain climbing up, carrying buckets of jumping into mud puddles, diving into barbed wire. And I'm thinking through the whole thing. Like they really did trick me into paying that fee to put myself in these traumatic obstacle course-like situations and have the time of my life while I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So how do we turn like our classroom, which is like a marathon or a sprint, into a place where students are excited to like, get more work thrown at them? And these crazy obstacles where you're jumping off of stuff and diving into stuff. Like I say it in the book, like I'm convinced that they're geniuses because they found a way to get people to be excited about getting beat up. And so how can I have a classroom get students excited to get more work? And that's a big part of the second part of the book.
Okay, so give me an example.
Well, I mean, like when I run marathons, I set personal goals. Like I try to figure out what my destination time is, what my I'm okay with it time is, and my just finish it time. So how can we use that same obstacle course model of like setting 3 or 4 different goals when using personal growth for like rubrics or setting goals for ourselves as a classroom performance, and then dialoguing about whether we met those goals or didn't quite lead up to them. So we can train our students on how to sort of grade themselves and then turn abstract concepts like grading into a concrete, like tangible goal setting process where students can lean forward and say, I hit this metric, I'm falling short on that metric, almost like setting a personal record, and then leaning in and figuring out what they can do to self-correct.
Do you have an example lesson that you've done this with the topic?
Yes. So I use like a visual in the book, almost like a video game where you get like a spiderweb chart that breaks down your skills, like in each of 8 categories. And then you see how much you're growing or falling behind in each of those 8 categories. And I love it because then students can see and grade themselves about which obstacles, quote unquote, they're dominating, which ones are causing them problems, and which ones they feel like they need to work harder on for next time. So rather than being like Bart Simpson writing all the bad stuff on the board, I will not do X, they're actually leaning in and thinking about their own growth and learning because it is like a workout, like CrossFit for curriculum.
CrossFit for curriculum. Love that. Okay, so how can escape rooms inspire engagement in our classroom?
So escape rooms are crazy. If you've never done one of them, I highly recommend it. It's tense, it's traumatic, and it's super stressful. And I love the fact that we are voluntarily giving people money to put us in these crazy, stressful situations. So I'm trying to figure out in the classroom, how can I make it so that when you unlock the right answer, you're rewarded with harder questions? It's almost like a video game. Where you keep leveling up, and there's no penalty for getting wrong answers, for hazarding guesses, but rather you're trying to, figure out that twisting, turning combination of mazes and puzzles. And each of those chambers is rewarding you with like micro credentialing or micro badging instead of micromanagement in the classroom, which I think is an awesome way to think about teaching because it's out of Doug Limov's book, Teach Like a Champion. Like learning never stops. The reward for the correct answers is always harder questions. So you're just leaning in and digging in and go, trying to beat the clock and beat the game.
I love that. Do you have an example from your classroom?
So even something as simple as a Google form. In the book, I walk through ways to design any activity that could be a Google form that's form validated. So like if they answer the right question, they go to room X. And if they answer the question incorrectly, they go to room Y. But it doesn't tell them whether they're in room X or room Y until the clock runs out. So there's a lot of stress and the trial and error that get you forward or backwards. The form could send you back to the beginning or down a wrong path and things like that. Really low prep, low finance involved for any teacher in any course or content area.
Okay, so John, part of changing and trying new things is realizing that we need to try new things. Now, there are some educators out there who say, well, I should be able to just teach the way I've always taught. Sounds like we're trying to entertain these kids. What's your response?
My response to this is, if today's kids are not learning the way that I was teaching, I owe it to them and to myself to teach in a way that they will learn. And if that means I have to go a little bit above and beyond, I did not get into this to make money. I got into it to make a difference. And I'm all in for whatever these kids need. So sign me up.
Okay, so the book is EDrenaline Rush with an ED with John Meehan. I'm excited. I have this book on my desk right now. It's my next read as we're taping this over the summertime. Thanks, John.
Hey, I really appreciate it. Thank you, Vicki.
From now until September 28th, Advancement Courses, an online provider of professional development for K-12 teachers, is donating 10% of their sales to funding DonorsChoose.org projects. Go to coolcatteacher.com/give to submit your project for consideration. And if you need some awesome PD, 10-Minute Teacher listeners get 20% off any online courses with the code COOL20. With this coupon, a 3 grad credit course for continuing education, salary advancement, or recertification is only $359. So go to advancementcourses.com/coolcat to learn more and use the code COOL20 to get your discount. Never stop learning. Today, your practical PD challenge is to take one of the ideas from this episode and use a concept from either an amusement park, mudroom, or escape room in your classroom this week. Be sure to share it both with me and others on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or wherever you share. And if you'll tag me at CoolCat, I might just retweet or mention what you did on my social media, but also possibly on a future show. So let's get out there and engage our students with exciting learning.